Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the very first episode of Made in Bartlett, a program that is dedicated to the primary industries of Bartlett. This is our very first episode. We're very excited. We hope that you subscribe to the podcast. And I want to give a shout out to our production partner, which is V2 Media, and also to our sponsor, First South Financial. I should say that First South Financial is a strong supporter of this Chamber of Commerce, and we're very fortunate to have them as a sponsor. They're very much involved in Bartlett businesses and economic development throughout the region. This program is going to be focused on the medical device industry, which is very important not only to Bartlett, but for the entire Memphis region. Bartlett Chamber has been very much involved in the medical device industry. We helped form the Greater Memphis Medical Device Council, which we're fortunate today to have two representatives of that organization with us, Chris Locke, who is Executive Director, and Mike Crook, who is Vice Chair. We're going to ask them a lot of questions about the medical device industry and about the council in particular. I'm going to start with Chris. Welcome, Chris, and welcome, Mike.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, John.
Chris, as Executive Director of the Greater Memphis Medical Device Council, I'm going to start off with you and let you explain to us exactly what is the council.
So the Greater Memphis Medical Device Council, or as we refer to the GMMDC for abbreviation purposes, is to create a successful collaboration among the member medical device companies in our area to identify shared economic development and workforce needs. And we do that through a number of ways and have a number of companies that are involved with our organization. Mr. Crook is on the board of that organization, and we are made up of about 8 or 9 different companies that sit on our board, and then we represent all of the what we call the OEMs, or the original equipment manufacturers, the companies like Stryker and Smith & Nephew and Medtronic. Those are big name companies. We have companies of a smaller scale as well, and then we also work with a lot of the companies that support those manufacturers. And there are contract manufacturers that make different parts for various equipment manufacturers. And there are people that do different functions within that business line that help support the industry. Things like metal coating as a side industry. And then we work with some of the folks that help finance the industry, some of the attorneys that help get FDA approval and patent approval and things like that in the industry. So it's more than just medical device. It's everybody that supports the industry.
Well, give us an idea of our listeners and our watchers exactly what is a medical device. I mean, we hear that term a lot, but a lot of people probably do not know when we talk about the medical devices manufactured, made in the Memphis area. What are we talking about?
I think, and Mike can maybe answer this question better than I can, but a medical device is anything that's used in the treatment of a patient's medical care. A lot of times we think about things that are orthopedic in nature, an artificial hip or an artificial knee. Mike deals with things on an ENT nature that might be as small as the tiny tubes that, a lot of kids have put in their ears at a young age. And we have companies that have devices that are put on patients it's a device that is used to evacuate a wound, and helps in the healing process. So a variety of different devices. It could be things like different materials and substances that are used in surgical procedures and things of that nature. Mike, would you add anything to that?
No, I think that covers a lot of it. Memphis is specifically known for medical devices such as orthopedic, spine, and ENT. I think those are the 3 big ones here. And like Chris said, there are probably more than 30 companies that support those industries through contract manufacturing.
So the medical device industry of Memphis, is it you made it sound as if it was diverse as far as Mike, your company deals with ear implants primarily.
Primarily ear implants, ventilation tubes for kids that have recurrent ear infections, and microsurgical instrumentation.
Yeah. But then Smith & Nephew is noted for orthopedic implants. Is that correct?
That's
like
right.
Hips and knees and that type.
That's right.
So the medical device industry of Memphis, is it primarily manufacturing? I mean, what y'all are involved in are manufacturers. Is that correct?
I would say that's probably true, because there are 50 medical device companies, and of those, the OEMs are a smaller percentage. Those are the companies that sell directly to the hospital.
Right.
The others support that, and that's all manufacturing.
Right.
So the manufacturing plus delivery to the patient, delivery to the customer, the surgeon, those are the companies like Smith Nephew, Olympus, Grace, Medtronic, those type companies.
So then there's also suppliers to these OEMs.
That is correct.
Right.
Yeah, that's correct.
So how is it that Memphis became such a large concentration of medical device companies?
Yeah, it's an interesting story that, I mean, didn't really start in Memphis, but I have to mention Warsaw, Indiana, because that's where some of these companies started, and a lot of people that worked first in the medical device industry in Warsaw came to Memphis. And the most famous one is a guy by the name of Jadon Richards, who really started the first medical device company in Memphis. But he was attracted to Memphis for two reasons. Well, one, we really owe it up to his wife, because his wife was a native of New Orleans and refused to move to Warsaw, Indiana. And as far as north as she would go is Memphis. So that became the place where Mr. Richards set up his shop, or targeted. And he really wanted to come to Memphis because he wanted to work with Dr. Campbell, who started the Campbell Clinic. Dr. Campbell started the American Academy of Orthopedic Surgery and really was an innovator in the industry. And so Richards actually set up shop in a garage basement. He started his company, I believe, back in 1934, and began working with Campbell Clinic, supporting and then doing innovation of orthopedic medical device. And that's where the roots of everything kind of started in Memphis. From that company, a couple of other things, if I could go on, kind of spurned from that. And if you know Memphis, you've probably heard of the Shea Clinic, and you probably know this story as well, Mike. But a gentleman that worked for Richards, Harry Treese, I believe. Treese is how you say his name. He worked with Dr. Shea, and they started the first, is it
Stapes implant. So it was the first artificial Stapes implant.
Right.
Some orthopedic surgeons in his hospital were using a new material called Teflon, or fluoroplastic, and he felt like that material would be a good substitute for the bone, the small bone called the stapes in the ear, that he wanted to replace to restore hearing in patients with a disease called otosclerosis. And that was the beginning of the ENT industry from a medical device standpoint. And that started right here in Memphis. And I'm sure Chris has got more information on how that splintered off, and a lot of these other local companies all came from that original base of Harry Treese, who had taken over for Jadon Richards when he died.
That's right.
Harry was the head of Richards Manufacturing at the time, which became Richards Medical, which is now Smith Nephew Orthopedics. But that's kind of the basis from where everything started.
Yeah, and with that, so Treese also developed a compression hip screw that was used for hip fractures, which is was a major innovation. And so Memphis all of a sudden became on the map from the ENT procedures and orthopedic procedures that were medical devices that were being developed here in Memphis. It's interesting, and this is where some of the stuff ties to Bartlett, is when Richards started Richards ENT. And then in 1986, they moved out to the industrial complex in Bartlett and was the first tenant out there.
That's right.
And built their facility out there. They were bought in that purchase by Smith & Nephew. It was Smith & Nephew ENT, if I'm correct.
That's right.
And later they later sold out or were bought out by Gyrus.
That's right.
And then Gyrus was later bought out by Olympus, which Olympus is out there today. So that's kind of how they evolved into that market, and really started to put a lot of the medical device industry in Bartlett, in that Bartlett area, in that medical industrial complex. And so you kind of, like in other industries, like if you look at auto manufacturing, you get the manufacturing plant and then you get all the support industry around it. And so you have around some of these larger practices, you have some of the support industries. We have contract manufacturers like EMS that is out in Bartlett that continues to expand and does a lot of this work. You have smaller partners like us, one of our members is MRT, which is a small company that supports supplying some of the tools and things that are used in the medical device manufacturing process. And they are right there in the industrial complex as well. So a lot of growth has come out of what started at Richards and has grown in the Memphis area.
So you can say that almost nearly 50 medical device related companies in Memphis spun off from one company.
Yes. I mean, there's a couple other things. So, in Warsaw, some of the companies split off, salesmen and so forth, went off, started their own company. Zimmer being a name that's not so common in our area, but in Warsaw. An individual from Zimmer then moved down to Memphis and started working, and his name was Frank Wright. He started Wright Medical. And from there, you see Wright Medical begin to develop. They actually, they spun off, was a salesman from Richards who spun off to form Wright Medical. And he developed a rubberized heel for walking casts. And that's how he got his company started. And he set up shop in Arlington. And in 1977, that company was acquired by Dow Corning and became Wright Dow Corning. And then if you know the story of Dow Corning and some of the trouble that they got into around plastic surgery and breast implants, later was spun back off to become Wright Medical again. Wright Medical also developed what's called the Whiteside modular knee, and that was an innovative design, a breakthrough design in the industry for knee implants. And so, again, innovation is coming out of the Memphis area.
And Wright's now owned by Stryker, is that correct?
Wright is now owned by Stryker, but interesting enough, Wright decided to really get out of the orthopedics and focus, I think, on fingers and toes.
Yeah, small joints.
Right?
And
they sold the major part of their orthopedics business to Microport, which is still out in Arlington today, which is another company that we have in our area too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what is the impact of the industry? How many employees total do you think that the medical device industry has?
We did a study in 2022, and it's just slightly over 18,000 indirect and direct jobs. So there's direct jobs, people working in the manufacturers, and as I mentioned, there's all these companies that support it. And so between those two buckets, there's about 18,000 jobs.
Whoa. And what type of economic impact does that industry have?
So the economic impact, very interesting enough, from a tax basis, it's about $50 million in direct and indirect taxes to the Shelby County area. On an economic impact in total, it's over $4 billion.
$4 billion.
$4 billion. Annually.
Economic impact.
Yes.
That's pretty substantial.
It is. The same study actually was done by the Greater Memphis Medical Device Council 7 years prior, and it was only $2.6 billion. So it's been under huge growth in 7-year time period. And in that 7-year time period, those numbers really aren't even normalized for the global pandemic that occurred.
Well, how does what does the pay scale look like in that industry compared to normal industries in the area?
So the average salary in our industry is around $103,000.
The
average annual salary. Yes, it's quite it's much higher. I had the number here. I'm trying to find it, but I think it's significantly higher than the average annual salary of jobs within the county. So it's on the higher end of the scale.
Well, that's pretty impressive. It sounds like to me that industry overall pays more than, say, the automotive industry, if you look at the average wage. Speaking of that, we have, of course, Ford and Blue Oval City. This is just outside of the Memphis area. What impact do you believe that is going to have, if any, on your industry as far as employment, suppliers, that type of thing, or will it be an impediment to the medical device industry? Will it be a healthy competitor, or they just won't collide at all?
Well, I think one of our greatest challenges is the workforce and maintaining a well-trained, skilled workforce. Some of what we have in the industry are skilled machinists. Those jobs are not something you can just hire off the street, require training. Some people go through a 2-year trade school training program to be able to do that. And so those are the same sort of jobs we will compete with the automotive industry. So there is some concern amongst our membership companies about the impact of Blue Oval City. And I think it will be competitive in that nature and something that we are well aware of and planning for in the future. Mike, anything you'd add to that?
I would say there is a threat there, but I think on the positive side, there's a lot of press about Blue Oval City and the need for employees and workforce. And I think that sort of forwards the vision of the GMMDC of letting people know that there are jobs out there that you don't have to go to college for. There's some really nice high-paying jobs like machinist or inspection. There's a lot of different things people can do. And I think that Blue Oval City will kind of help spread that message, which hopefully for us will increase that workforce or the potential workforce of people who are wanting to go to a trade school like a TCAT, more college, one of those. To learn a skill. And now it's not just get hired by the automotive company or nothing. There are other opportunities. And that's the beauty of the medical device industry here in Memphis, is that it offers great opportunities for good, high-paying jobs for people who don't go to college, but also for those who want to go to college. It's a great career to be in because there are also high-paying jobs for those types.
Well, let's talk about the type of career paths that a person can have in that industry. Obviously, you're going to need engineers to design the product, but you mentioned machinist. Mm-hmm. What skill level is that?
It's typically a 2-year training at trade school. And after that, they will come to your business, to your company, and from there learn specifically how to program and run machines for those parts. And Chris mentioned earlier the difference, and we have such a wide scope in the Memphis area. You look at orthopedics, everybody's seen a knee or a hip, it's a big piece of metal. For middle ear surgery, what we do, it's a small piece of titanium that's anywhere from 0.5 millimeters up to 2 or 3 millimeters. So the machining of that takes a different skill level. So even if we hire experienced machinists from an orthopedic or spine company locally, they still have to do some training and learn how to operate. And that's one of the nice things about these machinists. The ones that you have on staff can do a lot of the training. Yeah. And if someone's willing to go 2 years and get that certificate to learn how to program these machines, then they've got a chance for a really nice career.
Yeah, very true.
Well, going back to the council, the GMMDC, the Greater Memphis Medical Device Council, what is its overall mission?
So our overall mission is to create a successful collaboration amongst member companies to identify shared economic development and workforce needs. And we want to be a first-class industrial council representing a major economic engine for Tennessee and Memphis. We need to align and amplify our industry voice to urgently address our most pressing issue, which is a sustainable, skilled workforce, and engage with educational institutions and the economic entities that support long-term viability and growth. So it's growth for the industry, it's an attractive workforce, and it's speaking together as one voice to move forth the industry in our area.
Well, you would think with the growth, the obvious growth that's taken place in the last 7 years since the first study was done and then the second study, and it showed a 25% increase, I believe.
That's right, just shy of 25%.
What I saw. Mm-hmm. Surely that's gotten the attention of some folks in Nashville with the State Economic Community Development Department. The Memphis Chamber and others in the area should be taking sight of this.
They are.
And I'm just wondering if you have a relationship with any of these organizations.
Yeah, we do, and we're continuing to work to evolve that. There are, we have seen companies attracted to our area and come here. We just recently opened the first U.S. headquarters for a company out of Ireland, PBC Biomed. They came to Memphis this summer and are just launching here. We're in talks with other companies that are from abroad that are in discussions. This is through the State Economic Development Council and with a partnership with the Greater Memphis Chamber.
Good. So I'm just curious, these other cities like Warsaw, Indiana, and some of these others, are there similar type councils or industry associations, medical device councils?
Yeah, there are. And, some of the larger ones, Minneapolis has a really large medical device council. It's a little bit different in ours. It's not so specific to medical device. They're working a lot with hospitals. They're doing stuff in the pharmacology and more of the life sciences. And then there's another large council called MassMedic that is in the Massachusetts, Boston area. And there's some major companies that Boston Scientific is a major medical device company that's based out of that area. And so a lot of it's been driven by the geography of those companies.
So you would think that given your type industries and your customer base and all that people like FedEx would benefit greatly from having this industry.
Yeah, they do. And then I think that's one of the driving forces of the sustainment of our industry here is that the supply chain, the ability to get your medical device to anywhere in the United States within 24 hours through the resources we have with FedEx is one of the biggest draws to the Memphis area, wouldn't you say, Mike?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's one of the primary drivers behind the reformation of this GMMDC, because we really got back on track with this a few years ago with John, you and I, and Jody Gilmore talking about not just focusing on workforce development, but trying to get the word out about our industry. Because I think it's been one of Memphis's biggest secrets, is that we are an unbelievable place for medical device industry. And nobody locally knew that, including industry, especially Nashville, because we are West Tennessee, and unfortunately sometimes we get overlooked in the big picture. So we wanted to be able to form this to raise the profile of our industry, to protect what we have here, but also to grow it. You mentioned those other councils in other cities. They are proactively recruiting, and they're bringing medical device industries in. And I think it would be crippling to the local community and the local economy if we didn't protect and grow what we have here. And we've got such a great base to grow from. There's no reason why we shouldn't. But to your point, John, we've got to have companies like FedEx and some of these bigger people support us, because if we're honest, they're the ones that carry the weight with the lawmakers and the other people that we need to keep us going.
So GMMDC, one of its main missions or purposes is to enlarge the industry, not just be happy with what we've got, but just try to make it better.
Absolutely.
No. Yeah, and a lot of our companies work on a global basis. So there's always the threat of something leaving Memphis. We want to see stuff be added and grow within the Memphis area. To draw and attract companies to this area, we need to be out there speaking about the resources and benefits of what's in Memphis. And, one of those things that we want to continue to build on is having that sustainable workforce that we talked about earlier that, is an attractive model for a company to land in this area.
Absolutely.
So for our watchers, if they want to know more about the GMMDC, is there a website that they can go to?
Yeah, you can go to our website. It's just the letters, gmmdc.org. And you can find out all kinds of information about our industry, updates and events that are going on. We even have information on job postings from our various membership companies. It links you to their website, and you can learn about careers and opportunities in the industry. We also wanted to promote the message too, and Mike mentioned it earlier, that there are attractive jobs in the industry that don't require a college degree. And so we're trying to get the message out there to younger generations about opportunities within the industry. It's vast, and not a lot of people know about it. Mike said it's one of the secrets of Memphis, but people need to be aware of what could go on. I've taken tour groups of kids in high school age on tours. We are talking to middle school age kids about opportunities and different job openings and class and things you can do within the field, not just at the engineering level, the inspection level, the machinist level. There's all different levels within the industry.
Great. Well, gentlemen, I want to thank y'all for taking the time to join us on this very first inaugural podcast, episode number 1. And I also want to thank V2 Media for helping us produce this, and our sponsor, First South Financial, a strong supporter of the Bartlett Area Chamber of Commerce. Again, ladies and gentlemen, if you'd like to know more about the GMMDC, go to their website, gmmdc.org. And please subscribe to this podcast. We'd enjoy having you. We're going to have many more of these podcasts. We're going to be focused on the primary industries of Bartlett. So we appreciate you joining us and look forward to seeing you again soon.